Did you hear the one about the ghost who couldn't ride a bike? He had no body to ride with. Okay, maybe that was a bit weak, but stick with me because today we're diving deep into the world of bicycle humor. We're not talking about your grandpa's knock-knock jokes. We're talking about stories, observations, and those painfully relatable moments that only cyclists understand. Let's start with the eternal struggle, the relationship between a cyclist and their saddle. It's like a terrible marriage you can't get out of. You spend a fortune on the perfect one, convinced this is the one. The first ride is okay. The second ride, you start to question your life choices. By the third ride, you're pretty sure you've signed a contract with a medieval torture device. You see those professional cyclists perched on what looks like a carbon fiber razor blade, and you wonder, what are they not telling us? Are their lower bodies just made of granite? I have a theory. They've simply achieved a higher state of being where pain no longer exists, or they've just gone completely numb, which is also a possibility. Then you have the gear. Oh, the glorious, expensive gear. You start with a simple bike, but soon you need the Lycra. You tell yourself it's for aerodynamics, but really, it's so you can look like a superhero who's slightly lost on their way to a convention. You get the special shoes that click into the pedals. The first time you forget to unclip at a stoplight is a rite of passage. It's the slow, graceful, and utterly humiliating timber over onto the pavement, right in front of a cafe full of people. You lie there for a second, tangled in your own bike, contemplating whether you can just pretend to be asleep until everyone leaves. And have you ever tried to explain a bike purchase to a non-cyclist friend? You say, I just spent $3,000 on a new bike. They look at you, horrified. But it's just a bike. It has 2 wheels and pedals, just like the one at Walmart for $100. How do you explain that your bike is made from a special carbon weed developed by NASA and that it weighs less than their cat? How do you justify that the gear shifters cost more than their television, but they change gears with the precision of a Swiss watch? You can't. You just smile and say, it's a really nice bell. Let's talk about the different tribes of cyclists. First, you have the MAMILs, middle-aged men in Lycra. You see them in packs like a flock of brightly colored, slightly sweaty penguins. They're always talking about their wattage, their heart rate zones, and the epic climb they conquered last weekend, which was actually just the hill on the way to the grocery store. They have all the gear, all the lingo, and an undying love for espresso. Then you have the mountain bikers. These guys are a different breed. They come back from a ride covered head to toe in mud with a few new scratches and a huge grin on their face. You ask them how their ride was. It was awesome. I almost went over a cliff, got chased by a badger, and I think I broke my thumb, but the descent was epic. Their idea of a good time is what most people would consider a near-death experience. They view things like roots, rocks, and drops not as obstacles, but as technical features. And don't forget the fixie riders, the hipsters of the cycling world. No gears, no brakes, just pure, unadulterated leg power and a healthy dose of overconfidence. Watching them navigate city traffic is like watching a ballet and a horror movie at the same time. They skid to a stop, weaving through cars with a coolness that defies all logic. Their uniform consists of skinny jeans, a messenger bag, and a mustache that's probably more aerodynamic than my helmet. My friend Dave is the perfect example of cycling obsession. He got into it a few years ago. At first, it was just a weekend thing. Now his apartment looks like a bike shop. There are wheels hanging from the ceiling. His bookshelf is filled not with books, but with energy gels and electrolyte tablets. He talks about his bike, Sheila, more than he talks about any human being. The other day, he told me Sheila and I had a bit of a disagreement on the trail today. She wanted to go left. I wanted to go right. We compromised and both ended up in a bush. He wasn't even mad. He was just worried he'd scratched her paint. The language of cycling is a whole nother universe. You don't just ride fast. You drop the hammer. You're not tired. You've bonked. You don't ride behind someone. You sit on their wheel. It's a secret code to make us feel special. Imagine trying to use this in regular life. Sorry, boss, I can't finish that report today. I've totally bonked. I need to refuel with the gel and sit on your wheel for a bit. I'm pretty sure that's a quick way to get a meeting with HR. And the food. Cyclists have the best excuse to eat whatever they want. I just burned 3,000 calories, so I am entitled to this entire pizza and a cake. It's not gluttony, it's recarbing. The post-ride meal is a sacred ritual. It's the moment you finally get to stop moving and shovel food into your face like you haven't eaten in weeks. You sit there, still in your sweaty lycra, feeling completely justified in ordering a second dessert. One of my favorite cycling memories involves a charity ride. It was 100 miles. I was feeling pretty good for the first 80. I was flying. I was a god of the road. Then, at mile 81, my legs decided to go on strike. They just stopped working. Every pedal stroke felt like I was pushing a grand piano up a flight of stairs. A 70-year-old man on a bike that looked like it was from the 1950s cruised past me. He looked over, smiled, and said, "Don't worry, son, only 19 miles to go," and then just breezed off into the distance. I've never felt so humbled in my entire life. My ego was shattered. But hey, I got a free banana at the finish line, so it was all worth it. Cycling is this weird, wonderful, painful, and hilarious sport. It's about the freedom of the open road, the beauty of nature, and the simple joy of moving under your own power. But it's also about squeaky chains, flat tires in the pouring rain, and trying to explain to your significant other why you need a fourth bicycle. It's a community of people who understand that the best stories come from the toughest climbs and the most spectacular falls. We share a common bond, a secret language, and an unspoken understanding that, yes, wearing that much spandex in public is perfectly normal. So the next time you see a cyclist struggling up a hill, give them a little cheer. They might look like they're in a world of pain, but secretly, they're having the time of their lives. And they're already thinking about the cake they're going to eat when they get to the top. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you have any funny cycling stories of your own, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Ride on and keep the rubber side down.